Have you ever heard someone describe a terrible accident and immediately blame it on bad luck? Wrong place, wrong time, they say. Nothing could have been done. But here is the truth that might surprise you. Most accidents that seem like pure misfortune are actually preventable events that resulted from a chain of small, overlooked decisions. Today, we're going to explore why calling something bad luck can be dangerous and how understanding the real causes of accidents can literally save lives. This isn't about assigning blame, it's about empowerment. Because when we stop attributing accidents to fate, we start seeing the patterns that can help us avoid them. Let me start with a story that changed my entire perspective on safety. A few years ago, a construction site experienced a serious incident. A worker was injured when scaffolding collapsed. The initial reaction from many people was predictable. What terrible luck. Wrong place, wrong time. But when investigators examined what happened, they discovered something. The scaffolding hadn't been properly inspected in weeks. Several bolts were loose. The weight limit had been exceeded. Workers had mentioned concerns, but hadn't filed formal reports. The supervisor was managing 3 sites simultaneously and was stretched too thin. Suddenly, this unlucky accident looked very different. It wasn't one catastrophic failure. It was a series of small compromises in safety that accumulated over time until something gave way. This pattern appears again and again when we examine accidents across all contexts. Workplace incidents, traffic collisions, household injuries, and more. What looks like random misfortune is usually the visible result of invisible risks that were allowed to accumulate. Safety experts use something called the Swiss cheese model to explain how accidents happen. Imagine several slices of Swiss cheese stacked together. Each slice represents a safety, barrier training, equipment checks, supervision, safety protocols, and so on. Each slice has holes representing weaknesses or failures in that barrier. Most of the time, these holes don't align. If one safety measure fails, another catches the problem. But occasionally, all the holes line up perfectly, and the hazard passes straight through every defense. That's when an accident occurs. Here's the crucial point. It's not bad luck that the holes aligned. Each hole exists for a reason: a skipped inspection, an overlooked warning sign, a shortcut taken to save time, inadequate training, poor communication, or normalized deviation from safety standards. When we understand this model, we see that preventing accidents isn't about being lucky. It's about systematically closing those holes. One of the most dangerous patterns in accident causation is something researchers call normalization of deviance. This is when risky behavior becomes so common that people stop recognizing it as risky. Think about everyday examples. Someone regularly drives slightly over the speed limit and nothing bad happens. Over time, they push it a little further. They start checking their phone at red lights, then at slow speeds, then briefly while driving. Each time, nothing bad happens, which reinforces the behavior. They're not trying to be reckless. They've simply recalibrated their sense of what's acceptable risk. Then, one day, something unexpected happens while they're distracted, and there's an accident. Is that bad luck, or is it the predictable outcome of repeatedly rolling the dice? This pattern occurs in professional settings too. Safety procedures get abbreviated because we've always done it this way and nothing's happened. Warning signs get ignored because that alarm goes off all the time. Equipment maintenance gets delayed because it's still working fine. Each deviation feels minor in the moment, but they compound, and when an accident finally occurs, it seems sudden and unlucky even, though it was actually the endpoint of a long series of normalized risks. Modern safety science has moved away from simply blaming individuals and toward understanding how systems either protect people or set them up for failure. Consider a workplace where accident rates are high. The traditional approach might be to tell workers to be more careful or pay better attention. But effective safety analysis asks different questions. Are workers properly trained? Do they have adequate rest between shifts? Is the equipment well maintained? Are safety procedures realistic and practical? Or do they require shortcuts to meet productivity demands? Is there psychological safety to report concerns without fear of repercussions? Are near misses investigated and learned from? When we examine accidents through this lens, we often find that people were doing their best within systems that had latent failures. The accident wasn't bad luck, it was a system failure waiting to manifest. This doesn't absolve individuals of responsibility, but it recognizes that sustainable safety requires more than individual vigilance. It requires systems designed to catch and correct errors before they become accidents. So if accidents aren't about luck, how do we prevent them? It starts with a fundamental mindset shift from reactive to proactive thinking. Reactive thinking says, we'll deal with problems when they arise. Proactive thinking says, how might this go wrong, and what can we do now to prevent it? This applies at every level. In our homes, it means not waiting until someone trips on that loose rug before fixing it. At work, it means reporting near misses and treating them as valuable learning opportunities rather than non-events. In our communities, it means addressing known hazards before someone gets hurt. Proactive thinking also means honest risk assessment. We humans are notoriously bad at evaluating risk intuitively. We overestimate dramatic, rare risks while underestimating common, mundane ones. We think it won't happen to me, even when statistics clearly show otherwise. Effective prevention requires looking at actual data and patterns rather than relying on gut feelings about what is dangerous. One of the most powerful prevention tools is taking near misses seriously. A near miss is when all the conditions for an accident were present. But by chance, yes, sometimes luck does play a role. Nothing bad happened this time. Near misses are gifts. They are free lessons that show us where our safety barriers have holes without anyone getting hurt. Yet they're often dismissed precisely because nothing bad happened. Organizations with excellent safety records treat near misses as seriously as actual accidents. They investigate them, identify the contributing factors, and close those gaps. They understand that today's near miss could be tomorrow's tragedy. This principle applies personally too. If you almost backed into someone in a parking lot because you weren't checking your mirrors properly, that's not close call, but no harm done. That's valuable information about a habit that needs correction before luck runs out. The empowerment of understanding. Here's why this perspective matters so much. When we attribute accidents to bad luck, we feel powerless. Luck is random and uncontrollable. But when we understand that most accidents result from identifiable, preventable factors, we regain agency. You can't control luck, but you can control whether you maintain your vehicle, whether you get adequate sleep before driving long distances, whether you speak up about workplace hazards, whether you install smoke detectors and keep them functioning, whether you learn proper lifting techniques, whether you follow safety protocols, even when they feel inconvenient. This isn't about living in fear or being paranoid. It's about informed awareness. It's about recognizing that safety is an automatic the result of countless small decisions and sustained attention. Conclusion: the next time you hear about an accident and someone says, "What bad luck?" pause and ask, what conditions made this possible? What small failures accumulated? What warnings were missed? What could have been done differently? This isn't about blame or judgment, It's about learning and prevention, because the uncomfortable truth is that most accidents are not inevitable acts of fate. They are predictable outcomes of identifiable patterns. And if they're predictable, they're preventable. That's not just an academic insight. That's empowerment. That is the difference between feeling helpless before random misfortune and understanding that we have more control than we think. Stay safe out there, not by hoping for good luck, but by making the small, consistent choices that keep those Swiss cheese holes from ever lining up.